Hello. So I am here to talk about herbs today. And this is such a special topic for me because herbs are the way that I came into learning about all alternative ways of healing, including yoga and everything else that I value so much. And they still pose a very important role in my life today, as well as my family's. So I've been using herbs as medicine for about 10 years. And I've introduced it to my family. My dad actually has had pretty bad allergies during the springtime for years since I was born. And he, a few years ago, maybe 5 years ago, saw how much impact herbs had made on my health and life. And so asked if I could make him a concoction for his allergies, and he's been using it. He uses it about 2 weeks before the usual time that he gets allergies every year, and he has had barely any reactions ever since then. So, just so many wonderful stories of success using herbs. But just a disclaimer: this is in no way, shape, or form meant to override any medical advice, and always consult your doctor before using herbs. There are actually herbs that interact with certain medicines, especially psychological medicines. So always check before you take any herbs. But this is all meant to just educate you about the different actions of herbs and how they interact with our bodies. So let's get started. Feel free to grab a pen and paper if you want to write any of this down to use for yourself. So, herbs are made of many different qualities, many different ingredients, right? Little particles. And each of them interact with our body in a different way. Same with food. But herbs are quite special. I see it truly as almost this lock and or this key and hole, right? Perfect lock combination that herbs do in unlocking certain things in our body and telling our body to react certain ways. So, depending on the ailment that you're going through or the desired result that you're going for, you'd want to utilize certain herbs at certain times. Um, so, we're going to go through a list of some of the main actions that herbs have. And you might notice some of these herbs show up in several categories. And that's because they have several actions. It's not like one herb has only one action. Usually they have 4 or 5 main actions that they work on the body. Maybe it's two big ones, but we'll go through these so you can kind of get a better understanding of how to utilize herbs for a specific reason. Okay, so we're going to go down down a kind of almost alphabetical list here. So the first one that I want to go into, first category, is one of my favorites. They're called adaptogens. And so, if you know me, you know that I am big into medicinal mushrooms. I think they're wonderful, different shaga and reishi, wonderful adaptogens. And so, what adaptogens mean is it helps your body balance from stress. So that oxidative stress, that cortisol rising stress. Most people in today's society have way more stress than historically humans have ever experienced, right? So adaptogens are such an important part of our herbal collection. It helps impact overall balance and strength without affecting one specific organ or body system. So these really work on the whole holistic body. That's why these I take usually every day. Um, and they work with multiple different actions, so they could be stimulating or relaxing or improve focus or help maintain the immune system on top of being this adaptogen. So some examples of this are ashwagandha, different mushrooms like cordyceps, holy basil, also you'll see as tulsi, especially in tea, ginseng, moringa, and astragalus. So these are all some of my favorites. And I will take a side note that I have a lot of these in my herbal collection. And I used to buy them bulk from a store in Marietta. They went out of business. They do have a wonderful store in Atlanta called Sevenanda that you can still buy most of these in bulk. So you just go and pick out how much you want. But you can also buy them online. There's some really great companies that sell organic and well sourced herbs for you to make your own teas at home. That's my favorite way. But you can also mess with making tinctures, and those take a little bit more time, but can be really fun. All right, so let's keep going down the list. The next category I want to talk about is alternatives. So these assist with proper organ function by assisting with proper elimination, right? And that doesn't mean that can mean on the cellular level as well as on the digestive level. So these could be herbs such as burdock, cleavers, echinacea, nettle, stinging nettle, one of my favorites, dandelion, and red clover. So those are all good examples. The next category is antimicrobial. Just like the name says, helps to interfere or inhibit the growth of unhealthy, right, unwanted microbes in the body. So very good if you have some kind of sickness. And these are some examples are feverfew, myrrh, right, um, a very strong herb, clove oil, very strong, garlic, and neem oil. So you see, these are all very pungent. All these have that same in that same category. So the next category is antioxidants. Yes, you might think of blueberries if you're into nutrition at all, but herbs are amazing because it packs a lot into a little space, right? You can take just a teaspoon or so of an herb, and it can make a lot of difference in your body. So antioxidants basically help to lower oxidants or those free radicals that damage our body when they're in excess. When they're in excess, they can cause weakened immunity, fatigue, accelerated aging. So these just help to reverse all of that. Some examples of this would be clove, cinnamon, which is a great favorite to put in food as well, ginkgo, which also works with memory. I won't go into memory, so I wanted to point that out. Oregano is one. Turmeric, also the best anti-inflammatory, and cumin and parsley would be another. So these are all great antioxidants. The next category is analgesics. So these are essentially pain relievers, right? Pain relievers work with anti-inflammatory compounds. So this can work either topically or internally. So arnica would be an example, and this is one that you might hear, arnica gel. Sometimes they mix these days arnica with some strange other ingredients, but if you can get a very pure version of arnica, it works wonders externally on any kind of joint inflammation or things like that. Internally, you can also use feverfew, John's wort, which is one of those that's contraindicated with certain psychological medicines. So beware of that one, but it's a great herb as long as you're not taking certain medicines. Mullein and black cohosh. So those are all great analgesics for helping with pain, headache, anything like that. Um, and I will also make the note that there hasn't been a lot of paid for scientific studies on herbs for a reason, right? They can't make, big pharmaceutical companies can't make money off herbs, and there's not a lot of funding for it, right? But these have been utilized for hundreds upon hundreds of years by all different cultures around the world. And so the studies have been in the history, right? And their use in the age-old tales of age-old stories, right? Of certain things being used during pregnancy, during breastfeeding, during aging, during youth. So there's so much to be said for the validity of herbs, but sometimes you have to really dive in to find this validity because it's not found in a lot of modern um, science, although there is a growing number of studies that they're doing on a lot of herbal medicine. So keep an eye and our heart out for that. All right, so the next we're going to go into is aromatics. So these usually have strong aromas, right? A lot of some of the most powerful essential oils are aromatics. So they often to um, support digestive and reproductive systems, clear the airways, right? When you take a big inhale in of an essential oil, maybe of ginger or peppermint, right? It automatically feels like an opening of your airways, and it works on the bronchial level. It's amazing. So star anise is another very powerful one of these aromatics. Cardamom, fennel, or ginger also. So the next is astringents. Love these. So these are herbs that dry or shrink draw tissue. So it helps to create a barrier, right? Dry out any moisture, extra mucus. Their taste gives you that kind of pucker feeling, right? So this is also a taste in Ayurvedic medicine. So this is considered one of the tastes like bitter and sour and sweet and salty. So topically, some of these herbs can actually help do things like draw out splinters, right? Because it shrinks the tissue, draws out, and tone and protect the skin, big for aging. And this is due to a lot of very high tannins. Internally, they help tone the mucous membranes and dry up the excess. So some examples of these kinds of herbs would be green and black teas, rose water is very common for the face for a reason, witch hazel, leaf and bark, white oak, yarrow is another one also. So those are all are wonderful astringents. So the next one is bitters. So used to stimulate appetite. So that is actually the role of bitter food, right? Internally, is that it helps to increase your saliva and increase the production of your gastric fluids to help with digestion. So if you're maybe someone who gets bloated really easily upon eating, it's amazing to experiment with trying bitter foods or bitter herbs. So although the flavor is usually not as preferred as maybe sweet, right? It can really help increase your digestion in a meal. So examples of this would be artichoke, dandelion, hops, right? The bitterness of hops. The orange peel, skullcap, or wormwood. All right, the next category is nervines. So these specifically support the nervous system. Yes, so they're often calming and known to help with things like sleep and relaxation, just if someone's overworked. Um, a very popular one, the California poppy, right? The poppy, probably heard of that. Chamomile, very common um, nighttime herb, but I will say that chamomile is also part diuretic, which helps you pee. So it's good to drink chamomile at least in maybe an hour to 30 minutes before you sleep so you can go pee before you go to sleep, or else you might wake up in the middle of the night and have to pee. So, fun thing about chamomile. Hops is another nervine. Kava kava, very popular one, very potent, wonderful. Lavender, right? Lavender, the ultimate relaxation herb. Lemon balm and passion flower also. All right, the next is carminatives. So these are often aromatic and help keep our digestive system happy, right? And help to reduce and prevent excess gas. Yes, very important for some of us. Star anise, caraway, chamomile, fennel, and ginger, all very powerful ones. Demulcents, these are kind of create a goo-like uh, action, right, in our body to help coat and soothe and protect mucous membranes, right? It triggers a reflex in the body that helps to promote natural moistening of secretions in the body. So these are such things. We'll talk about foods like chia seeds, flaxseed, but also marshmallow root, plantain. And so this is not the banana-like plantain, but there's actually a plantain plant that lives outside, and I see it all the time. And it has quite a eye-looking shape, right? Pointy on each side, big in the middle, with some certain lines in the middle. So it's actually way more common than you think of, but not many of us have heard of it. Slippery elm and violet are also examples of that. So next category is diaphoretics. So these help to raise up your body temperature and stimulate circulation, right? To improve kidney function. Works with kidneys. And it also can help to end up cooling the body by sweating and expelling toxins. Okay. So these can be things like cayenne, elderflower, garlic. You'll see that a lot, ginger, and yarrow. I've heard of all of those in previous categories as well. The next category is diuretics. So that helps to draw water out of the body and urinate and eliminate excess fluids, right? This can also help kidneys to excrete more sodium into the urine. So good diuretics are dandelion, green tea, actually parsley, juniper, nettle, and uva ursi. Uva ursi is also wonderful for supporting female um, any kind of UTIs and things like that. Just throwing that in there. All right, the next category is emmenagogue, and these help to promote menstrual flow and regulation. So these are things that you cannot take if you're pregnant. They can cause abortion, so you have to be very careful with emmenagogues. And they're very powerful herbs because a lot of times menstruation can be delayed or sped up because of stress or poor diet or anxiety or travel or medicine. And so these help to regulate that system of the body. Some examples are sage, rosemary, black cohosh, mugwort, juniper, and pennyroyal. All right, the next category is emollients. So these are topical, goo-like, as I call it, mucilaginous herbs for the skin. So this would be things such as aloe vera, chickweed, also good for allergies, and comfrey. Plantain, marshmallow, also. So we talked about plantain before. The next is expectorants. So these encourage a productive cough by breaking up mucus in the lungs. So there's a wonderful wise old saying, if you've got a productive cough, don't suppress it, right? Don't take a suppressant. Take an expectorant herb to cough it up. It helps some help to soothe like an irritating cough and soften those bronchial spasms, and then others can stimulate if there's an excess of mucus and not enough happening. So these could be herbs like elecampane, horehound, licorice, one of my favorites, slippery elm, violet leaf, yerba santa, all good examples. All right, hepatic herbs work to aid the liver and flow of bile. So wonderful for the liver, dandelion root, milk thistle, licorice, and turmeric. Okay. The next category is stimulants. These help boost the body's energy, lift the mood, really quicken the metabolism and the circulation, right? So these can be such as peppermint. I remember when I was working at uh, a business called the Chamber of Commerce, I had to give speeches sometimes, right? And I had a coworker who would always come in before I had to give a speech, and she would bring peppermint and say, "Smell this. It'll keep you alert and awake, ready to go." So she would always do that. And this was but way before I was into any of these things. And it worked all the time. I felt so fresh and alive and uh, on point, right? So peppermint, cinnamon, cayenne, ginkgo, and ginger, all great examples of that. All right, and then we're going to go into the last category that I picked was tonics. So this is a nutritive that can be taken daily, that I usually take daily as well, same as the first category, to tone and strengthen all the systems of the body and balance healthy energy levels. So examples of this would be dandelion, hawthorn, milk thistle seeds, moringa, nettle leaf, skullcap, all of those great examples. So there's so many different categories of herbs, and there's more that I didn't even cover, but these are some of the most important that I find myself using. And I also brought up a lot of different herbs that I find really helpful that are in my medicine closet. So I encourage you to stay tuned. I'll be posting more of these videos going more in depth on herbs, how to create your own teas. And mix different herbs together for certain different ailments or different times of the year, especially with spring coming up. I'll share my specific recipe for a herbal tea for allergies. So stay tuned. Thank you for watching and learning and for putting your health into your own hands. You are truly your own doctor and your own wisdom holder. So I'm so glad you're holding that space for yourself. Thank you for being here with me. Namaste.